Hey guys, how's it going, man? You guys have any idea how mind control mechanism stuff work? How your TV, your never mind. Um, just about everything in our society now is linked to some form of mind control manipulation, but it's hell, mind control manipulation is a church. You have a lot of people, you get them all together, you tell them there's a magic kingdom in the heavens after you die. You make up stuff and have people believe it, and then they act in accordance to control mechanisms to manipulate their society with it. So I mean, at the library, man, a lot of times, people are impulse to put things, and then I am impulse to watch. And then this one's called the Slender Thread, and I watched it. Sidney Poitier and Anne Bancroft and Telly Savalas. He works at he's a upperclassman at University of Seattle, Washington in Seattle. So it's Space Needle. When they start out the movie, what's the guy's name? Sterling Silliphant. He does the. Oh no, it's written by Sterling Silliphant, directed by who was the one that did the photography? It was really good, man. The cinematography. It was really good. I forgot his name was at the beginning. But it was Quincy Jones does the soundtrack. You can tell too. But it's late '60s, early '60s. I mean, and he's a student at the University of Washington. He works at the psychologist is Telly Savalas, and he works at a volunteer once a week at a suicide crisis hotline thing. And Anne Bancroft's character takes barbiturates and sees the thing in the paper when she's killing herself and calls in. And Sidney Poitier gets her and then calls, and they get the trace on the thing. And it's a real Harry Carey, but he gets her talking, tells about what happened to get her to the point where she's committing suicide. And you're watching it, and you're like, what's the big, what's she doing? What's she doing? And then when she comes home and she's telling about what happened, she has a 12-year-old son named Chris. And she's like, why would this bitch commit suicide? That's my first thought. Who with kids would commit suicide? And what happened is she comes in, and the husband's sitting in this chair all distraught, and there's this $263 check left by this guy's will to his biological son, who is her son. And they got married. She was pregnant, and it was somebody else's kid. And the husband just, he loses it, because she lied to him. It's 12 years, and 12 years a lie, and he's just really distraught. And he has trouble forgiving her, and he can't forgive her, and she can't forgive herself, and so she keeps trying to kill herself. So it's really interesting. He took her to church. I've seen them there when they're in church, and I'm like, oh God, the pews and I hated going to church. I still don't like going to church. No, don't ask me to go to church with you. Good God, no. It's boring as hell. I mean, it's just, oh man. I mean, they had the guy in the pew giving the sermon, and it's just like, oh, frog. It reminds me of Joe Coy talking about being a 12-year-old kid and those wooden pews. The arm things are like right up here, and then there's no, and you're stuck in there on wooden pews that are uncomfortable as hell, and you're all crammed up against each other, and the guy's boring as hell, and everything's holier than thou, self-righteous, and makes you just feel like, like you're not worthy of being alive, It's like, God, I hate church with a passion. I don't like most churches. No, I just, Linda said that about hers, the Pentecostal, because the band's playing and everybody's all like excited and they have the talking the tongues. It's like a party and the preacher gets mad. When I went to, first time I ever went to a Baptist church was at a funeral, and the preacher got rolling, and I started trying not to cry because I was watching everybody cry, and I didn't want to look like a self-righteous hypocrite because it was my fiance's grandmother who I never met. And I didn't want to start crying because I was like, I never met the lady, and I didn't want to look like a... But I was watching my fiance's father cry, and it made... I wanted to cry, and I was like, I can't cry. And then my fiance, her cousin, I ended up marrying her cousin, who I was sitting in the back. My fiance and her family were sitting in the front, and her mother's mother and their adopted... I didn't understand this, because they adopted Stephanie in the family. It's one of their daughters. But at the funeral, they all sat up in the front. And me, her fiance, and Yolanda's mom, Kay's mom and Stephanie all sit in the back. And I was like, why the fuck are we in the back? Why aren't we up there with them? And then when at the end, when we started walking out, they called me up to Very Beautiful Yolanda. Yolanda's crying. I still didn't understand why we weren't sitting in the... It was weird. I don't know how people do things at certain ritual ceremonies and stuff, but, you know, I was honored to be there. You know, I know how much Chief Killard really loved his mom. But the church, the guy got rolling more. It was the first time I ever been to a Black Baptist church. And the preacher get rolling, man. And he just goes. And then when he gets going, there's always the guy who sits behind the pew up on the corner there. Everybody been to a Black Baptist church? You get the brother that goes, well, yes, well, thank you, Jesus. Yes, Jesus. Thank. And the ladies next to you, the old ladies, thank you, Jesus. Well, thank you, Jesus. Whoa, well, and they start going. And there's a, it's like an Earth, Wind, and Fire song. It's like that's the way of the world, you know. Well, that's the way out of the world. And it's like that. But the preacher gets going, and so I'm trying not to cry. And I'm thinking, what would my best friend do if this was the wrong thing to think? Because I could see Bob in my mind's eye just laughing. And I'm starting to laugh, and I don't want to laugh. And I'm having to pinch myself and bite my tongue. Because I'm the only white person in the church, and I don't want to get caught laughing, you know. So I look over, and I was about to. I looked at Stephanie next to me crying, and Ollie crying, and I'm like, oh man, don't you laugh, you'll be killed. And then I look over at Chief, and I could really feel, and then I got right back to life. But I didn't want to cry because I don't want to put on a show. But it brought me back to, and then I put my arm around Stephanie, and you know, it was really interesting. And church, good God, church. And then I thought about this movie, and in this movie, see, what happens is the guy just can't forgive her for this lie. And I'm like, man, Amy, every last kid we conceived during our marriage, she conceived with another man. 4 kids in 10 years of marriage. She got pregnant 4 times, and all were conceived through other men. And all I wanted was my babies and her to stop. I wanted, you know, wanted her to be like Anne Bancroft's character. Can you forgive me and I'll stop? But she would always repeat the same thing. It was like a disease. She just couldn't stop. She was like an addict to screwing around. And she would just have to go. She could get off for like 6 months and go back to it. She had to predicate and have sex with other people and get, I don't know why she had to get pregnant by him. I always asked her, man, could you just get like your tubes tied? But then I was like, I can't live with her this way either. I was like, I'm going to have to be a wife who screws around and have a condom. It's like having a prostitute for a wife. You wear a condom with her. I didn't know I had such an amazingly efficient immune system. You know, I didn't know. But when they play for your DNA at Las Cruces Biological at Columbia University, and they say it's part of the Higgs boson particle, your DNA is pretty cool. That didn't happen. Yes, it did. Yeah, because when I found out what was going on my Facebook, I tried to offer up my DNA to other hospitals and cancer research hospitals, and I got censored on my Facebook. I wasn't allowed to post that. Yeah. How many of you guys have ever tried to offer your DNA to hospitals in Cairo for children's cancer research and got censored and said you couldn't do that? Anyone? Bueller? Anyone? You're paranoid. No, it's true. Okay, my life is so interesting. But I had all this stuff happening, and I had people come talk to me, and people here in town, you know. But you can't get anybody in the NSA, CIA, and stuff like that to admit that they know anything or did anything publicly, or you know they'll be locked up or killed. Well, yeah, one guy left the country, and so they can help you, but they can't ever come out publicly and say they did it, or they could probably get themselves fired, locked up, or killed too. So I'm just this weird anomaly. You can go through saying all these outrageous things. The neat thing about it is I can go through and make most theologians look like complete retards. Most, you know, a lot of, God, atheist tapes, you know, and I watch those, whatever those guys are. Now, Arthur Miller's just a author, you know. But those other scientist guys, I guess, whatever they were, that Donald, what was his name, man? Daniel Dennett and guys like that, you know, are supposed to be these great, amazing scholars. I can make them look like complete retards. So it's like, wow, you know. So and they tried to get psychologists to psychoanalyze me and sedate me and have me locked up, and I made them look like they were, you know, still in their sophomore year in college, you know. And it was fun, but it sucked because this whole time I'm fighting against these people. My family thinks I'm crazy. They take my kids away and give them back to my ex-wife, who was this wacko psycho, and her family, you know, that got her seen by psychologists from the time she was 12, diagnosed as bipolar and schizophrenic when she's actually a sexual predator that was trained to predicate because she was groomed real early and then used sex to manipulate others. It's real simple. Anybody with any kind of rudimentary psychology degree could have figured her out. Maybe not. I guess not. It took me 10 years, but I had to work with kids in 2 separate jobs for about a year, 2 year and a half time, about a year and 3 months, and I can psychoanalyze sex offenders and sexual deviations better than people that have done it for 30 years. Okay, I get it now. I was like, okay, I didn't realize how talented I was. But the bad thing about it is you know, I sit there and I told this to my brother-in-law when they were freaking sticking me in Sierra Vista, how just an amazing person I was. And in order to keep their magic religions with their Jesus that lives in the clouds, it's going to come save them after they blow up the Middle East and they have this magic heaven. And they took my kids away and tried to get me locked up. And, you know, and it's funny because I was looking at that movie and looking at the dynamic of that movie. It's like, she lied and he couldn't forgive her. And I told them the truth. And they were all still lying to me and lying to themselves and lying to God. And they couldn't forgive me for telling the truth. And then they took my kids away. They tried to get me locked up and sedated. I can't get a job because of their networks here in town. And it's the exact opposite. You know, if anybody has I don't want to kill myself because God gave me this life and it's too beautiful and it's the one life I got to live as Ralph Earl Parsons Jr. And God put this spirit in this body to be the best human being I can be, the most truthful, honest, courageous, loving, faithful person I could possibly be. Which I thought at many times was not a lot, but I realized it was quite a lot. And then when I was able to tell the truth about me and about my life and how it fulfilled revelation, and I can explain and correlate religious principles and practices between almost all religious groups in the Judeo-Christian faith and others. And I can, mathematically, scientifically, analytically, a lot like Judah Krishnamurti, which was real cool. And he, at the time, got kind of just put as some guy that was a great teacher that wrote books, and I've been turned into this wacko that his family just totally betrays and tries to lock up and have and or abused or killed. And that's happened before. We read the Gospels, this happens